My family rejected me for who I am. Now they can't survive without me. I still remember the day I told my family I was gay. I was 19, sitting at the dinner table, my hands trembling as I tried to find the right words. My parents, devoutly religious and deeply conservative, had always made their views on people like me painfully clear. But I couldn't live a lie anymore. I had to tell them the truth. When the words finally came out, the silence was deafening. My mother's face turned pale and my father's jaw clenched. "You're not my son," he said, his voice cold and final. My mother started crying, not out of sadness, but shame. My younger brother, who had always looked up to me, just stared at his plate, refusing to meet my eyes. That night, they told me to leave. No money, no support, no goodbye. Just a suitcase, and the door slammed behind me. I was on my own. The first few years were brutal. I slept on friends' couches, worked minimum wage jobs, and struggled to make ends meet. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd made a mistake by coming out. But deep down, I knew I couldn't go back to pretending. I had to prove to myself, and to them, that I was worth more than their rejection. I worked harder than I ever thought possible. I put myself through college, juggling 3 jobs and surviving on instant noodles. After graduation, I landed a job at a tech startup. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Over the years, I climbed the ranks, learning everything I could about the industry. Eventually, I started my own company, pouring every ounce of energy into making it a success. And it worked. By the time I was 30, I was running a multi-million-dollar business. I had a beautiful apartment, a supportive partner, and a chosen family of friends who loved me for who I was. I didn't need my biological family anymore, or so I thought. Then, out of the blue, I got a call from my mother. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but when I answered, her voice was shaky and desperate. My father's business had gone under, and they were on the verge of losing their home. They needed money, my money. Hearing her beg was surreal. This was the same woman who had told me I was an abomination, who had watched as my father threw me out of the house. Now, she was asking for my help. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let them face the consequences of their actions. But another part of me, the part that had spent years yearning for their acceptance, wanted to hear her out. I agreed to meet them, but on my terms. When I walked into the cafe, they looked older, smaller, and far less confident than I remembered. My father couldn't even look me in the eye. My mother tried to apologize, but it felt hollow, rehearsed. They didn't want me back. They wanted my money. I told them I'd think about it, and I did. For weeks, I wrestled with the decision. In the end, I decided to help them, but not without conditions. They had to publicly acknowledge what they'd done to me. They had to apologize, not just to me, but to everyone they'd turned against me. And they had to accept that I was no longer the scared, powerless kid they'd thrown out. They agreed. The apology didn't erase the pain, but it gave me closure. I helped them keep their house, but I didn't let them back into my life. I'd built my own family, one that loved and supported me unconditionally, and that was worth more than anything they could ever offer. They disowned me for being gay, but in the end, I was the one who held the power, and I made sure they never forgot it. My family rejected me for who I am. Now they can't survive without me.